Hello, violas. This is your video if you're in first year and you play viola. We are going to be doing our 2 songs for our concert, and we're going to try to do a virtual concert. That's why we're still practicing this music, but we have to be able to play to a metronome. A metronome is a tool that we use. There's like mechanical ones, but I'm using an electronic one, and it clicks. So if we can all play to a metronome, that means that maybe we'd be able to perform together via Zoom or Skype or one of our technologies that we can use to record ourselves, and then we'll be able to put it all together, and we'll be able to still be able to perform together as a group, as an orchestra. But anyways, we're going to start with John at the Barbershop. We're playing measures 1 through 19, and I'm going to play it slowly at 65 beats per minute. That is what my metronome is going to start clicking. Here it is. Click, 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 and Dragon Hunter will be the same. So I'm going to play John at the Barbershop. I want you to try to play with me and keep a steady beat. And then I'm going to show you the fingerings to John at the Barbershop close up. Okay, so then you'll have both parts of the video that you can use for practice. All right, here we go. Let's first play John at the Barbershop. So we're starting on an open D string. 1, 2, ready, play. Measure 3, forte. Repeat to 3, piano. Measure 11. 2, 3, 4, up bow. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3. I think I got that rhythm wrong there. 2, 3, 4. I'll play it right this time. Measure 11. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. A. T, T, ta, ta. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 4. And stop. All right, that is your John at the Barbershop. All right, now this is your fingering for John at the Barbershop. This is A, this is D, this is G, and this is C. Okay, ready? So starting on your D string, 1, 2, open D, 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 and rest. A, D, 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 A, D, D. Now E, 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 A, D, 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 E, E, D, 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 and repeat. A, D, 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 A, D, D, E, E, open A, D, 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 E, open D, 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 D. Measure 11. F, rest, rest, rest. G, rest, rest, rest. F, rest, rest. Open A, 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 G, A. Rest, rest, rest. G, rest, rest, rest. F, rest. G, rest. Open A, 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 repeat to 11. F, rest, rest, rest. G, rest, rest, rest. F, rest, rest, rest. Open A, A, rest, rest, rest. G, rest, rest, rest. F, rest. G, rest. Open A, and stop. All right, that's John at the barbershop. Now, next we're gonna play Dragon Hunter. I'm gonna keep my metronome ticking because it's gonna be at the same tempo. So here's the viola part for Dragon Hunter. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, play. Rest, rest, rest. Lift. This is piano. And that is it for Dragon Hunter. So again, trying to tap your foot and stay with me and making sure you're staying with the tempo. Ta, ta, that's your quarter note. And now I'm gonna do fingering for Dragon Hunter for you, okay? So let's get up close. This is your A, D, G, and C string. So we're gonna start on this A string here. That's your B. 1, 2, ready, play. B, A, E, D, E, D, E. Rest, rest, rest. E, E, D, E, E, D, E, F, G, F, E, D, E, F, G, A, G, E, 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 F, and lift. E, E, D, E, E, D, E, F, G, F, E, D, E, 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 F, rest. G, G, E, E, D, E, D, 14, D, D, E, E, B, A, G, F, E, D, E, D, E, F, G, E, F, F, G, E, F. All right, and that's it for your homework. So again, practice staying with me and tapping your foot, and that'll be your homework. And then I'll take a listen to you on Wednesday when we have our Zoom meeting next week. All right, see you soon.